the Tom and Doug Show.
Hi, welcome to the Tom and Doug Show. We are breaking format a little bit this week. We are presenting an interview that Tom did with Ilsa Faye, an Australian artist who runs the Erotica Film Festival, a film festival that's online this year and is produced in Australia. Tom's collaboration with Australian poet Freya Mills appears in this year's festival with the film Freya Mills' Pavlovian Submissive. The festival takes place June 10th to June 30th, and you can get all the necessary information at eroticafilmfestival.com. Here's the interview that Tom recorded with Ilsa Faye.
So welcome to another episode of the Erotica podcast. I'm very excited today. I'm going to be joined by Thomas Florek, who is the director of the film The Freya Mills Pavlovian Submissive. It is in our art abstract category for this year, 2023. Welcome, Thomas. Where are you joining us from?
From New Jersey in the United States.
Wow, thank you. So I think the first question that I would love to know is, how did you get into filmmaking?
Well, I was always interested in art and film. When I was in college, I did not get a film degree, but I got a degree in computer science. But all of my electives were in media and film in that department. And I was blessed, very lucky to attend a department that was filled with crazy, interesting artists, people who had survived the art world of the 60s or semi-survived the art world of the 60s, and instilled us with all these really interesting ideas about how we can and should and we're responsible for changing the world.
Right. So how do you feel like filmmaking addresses that? How does it change the world?
It's just one of many things. I do lots of different things. I do volunteer work. I work for charities. I play sports. I do all these things. So among all these things, my filmmaking and my music, I always have this idea that I want people to be changed by having seen my work. And I always feel like I want to create something that is so incredibly powerful that the people are different when they come in and then when they go out. I don't know whether I'm ever going to get to that point, but that's the goal. Is I want to kick people's butt hard enough that they're a different person.
Wow, I like that. So what inspired you to make this particular film, The Pavlovian Submissive?
Well, I discovered the poetry of the mysterious Freya Mills, who was a very mysterious Australian poet who was just very shyly, carefully sharing her poetry. And I said, oh, this is really interesting. So I was really inspired by her poetry. That's really where it really started from, because her poetry had an honesty and it had an acceptance of desire in a way that admitted that she feels desire. So her poetry was really, and it was fun in a I guess you could call it dirty poetry, but it was fun in a sexually explicit way that didn't have any shame in it. So I said, oh my gosh. So out of the blue, I wrote to Freya Mills, and I said, whose real name is Lisa, and I said to her, "Have you ever sung? Did you sing at all?" And she said, "Well, not really, but I'll try it." So then through that, I started showing her my films, and she said, with my idea that, well, maybe we could collaborate on something. So she very carefully watched my films, and, oh yeah, I think I could collaborate with you. I don't think you're too much of a jerk or anything. So we very carefully started trading things back and forth. And this was the one thing that we settled on to try to do this, and then I got her to sing. So that was a fun thing. So for this particular film, I was just so captivated with the honesty of her work.
So this was kind of like a cross-country collaboration? Is that Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, isn't that weird? I've never met Freya Mills in person. I've never even spoken. We're on the phone. We've been in a couple festivals to get together, but she has carefully avoided being alive on camera or anything like that. So it's been a lot of fun, and I try to needle her as much as I can to try to encourage her to step out with her poetry a little bit more. But that's where we stand.
That's amazing. So the anime. So this film is animated. Can you tell us a little bit? It's actually unlike anything I'd ever seen before, and it's very unique within our festival this year. And I'd love for you to tell us
Oh,
how this style, because I think it's very unique to you, how this style came to be, and how it kind of got created, and what you use to create these animations.
well, thank you so much for saying that because I do a radio show here in the United States. We don't get any money for it, but it's on the Pacifica Network. So after doing many years of the radio show, I decided, well, maybe I could try to make this into a television show. How would I make this radio show into a television show? And it was suggested to me, well, why don't you make puppets that look like you? And my collaborator, my friend Doug, who does the radio show with me. So we started putting puppets together, and we have a show here on a cable station here in New Jersey, a Central New Jersey network that we do. So through that, we had puppets, and it's a music show. So we have a whole lot of music videos that we are putting together all the time. So this is sort of an extension of that. These are all puppets. They're all green screened in. They're all the design, the backgrounds are all carefully put together, and some of them are drawn, some of them are painted, some are photographs that I've taken. So you basically, little by little, you take these little puppets and you put them in situations that they seem to enjoy.
I love how creative it is. It's when we kind of were first exposed to your film, I was like, wow, it's extraordinarily unique. It's a very different way of expressing art fundamentally, and particularly bringing through these themes of eroticism and sex, and it's an unusual way, and one that I felt like really it kind of gets through to you in a different level because it doesn't follow a normal kind of like the regular video of a person. It doesn't follow that kind of standard. This is a human face. It transcends and somehow gets its message through in a different way. It was very cool.
Well, part of this was, I'm going to say maybe 6, 7 years ago. There's a festival here in New York called Cinekink, which is a very great festival, and it's all erotic films or films about sexuality. And I attended the Cinekink one time, and I was just kicking myself. I said, "What kind of film can I make that I could submit to Cinekink? I have puppets and I know how to do puppets. And how can I make these puppets not boring? And then can I make them really hip? And can I make them say something that couldn't be said any other way?"
Mhm.
That's how I've been experimenting with the puppets in erotic films. And I have a few erotic films over the years that I've done. They approach eroticism in a similar way as this film.
So, have you always been interested in exploring films like of eroticism or intimacy or sex, or I guess what drew you to these topics in the first place?
Well, eroticism and sex is always something I'm really interested in. I'm fascinated by what is eroticism, what is sexy, and what makes things. And I have my own theories that may or may not be coming out in the films, but my own theories about what makes something sexy and what makes something beautiful. One of my ideas is that I believe that our sexual fantasies are related to the big question that we have in our lives. So when one person has a big question of, let's say, some people might say their most important question is, "Am I powerful?" Well, then their eroticism will be a dreamlike a way to try to answer that question. For me, my big question in life is, well, what is life? What does it mean? What is existence? So I'm always trying to pull that out of my eroticism. That's just naturally what is sexy to me, are things that make me feel like I understand a little bit more about the universe. Now,
Mm.
I could tell that story to a zillion people, and very few people would say, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not what sexy means to me.
Yeah.
Because each person has a different question. Each
Mm.
person has a different fixation about what is their most important question. For some people, it's like, am I valuable? Am I, or something like that. But I always feel like whatever the big question in one's life is going to be somehow wrapped up in your sexuality.
And so, kind of with that in mind, and your big question, and understanding that each individual person's got their own relationship to their question and also to their sexuality and how they want to explore it. How do you balance, this line of, I guess, inquiry, curiosity, and expressing your own questions and experiences through these puppets? And where does that line kind of bump up against, I guess, more like pornographic content? Because I wouldn't describe your content as pornographic.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that a line that you have to navigate?
Well, first of all, pornographic content. The word pornographic doesn't is sort of almost a misnomer. It's sort of
Mhm.
when things become less valued by us, we call it pornographic.
Yes.
So I don't. So it's something that may express sex in a very direct and explicit way, may or may not be pornographic, depending on who we are and how we feel about it. So I think anything can be sexy. And I think I think that we're used to being bombarded with the sexuality of what we call porn, which
Mhm.
seems to be, male dominated and full of fear and full of all these things that we typically associate porn with. But I think that there's nothing wrong with bumping up to something that is explicit, or I wouldn't want my work to be unvalued. So in that sense, I
Mhm.
wouldn't want my work to be called porn. But I like the idea of, I play ragtime sometimes, and I love the dirtiness of ragtime.
Mhm.
There are times when I play, and if I get a really good drummer behind me and a really good bass player, man, I feel like I am Scott Joplin playing in a brothel sometime. Just that feeling of sexuality around me, coming through the music, just feels feels beautiful. It feels right to me, in a way that is, I guess, could be, I think, is non-threatening. And I guess maybe that's what makes porn is threatening. I don't know.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, that's really interesting. These are conversations I often have within myself, but also having with people externally. Is like, well, what is that line of what makes something pornographic, and what is the, I guess, the taboo? Like, when you kind of mention porn, or pornography, like people, stepping all the way back. It's very taboo.
mhm.
It's kind of seems offensive in a way, and it's an interesting inquiry to have around, well, what defines what most people would consider porn to be porn, and how do we, I guess, kind of navigate that socially and culturally through, I guess, that porn is really showcasing sex fundamentally, and then all of the themes around that: intimacy, relationships, connection. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that part of the problem is that each individual person has different relationships to intimacy, connection, and those aspects. So there are people walking around who are scared of all of those things.
Mm.
So for those people, anything that brings out or forces them to contemplate their own relationship to sexuality or intimacy, or could even be spirituality, would make them uncomfortable, and they might call that porn because they just don't want to go there. There's always something in a human being that just doesn't want to go someplace. Sometimes it's snakes. Oh man, I don't want to think about snakes. I know they're beautiful, they're great. I just don't want to think about them. But there are plenty of people that their sexuality is that they don't. It's there. I'll do it every now and then, but I don't want to think about it. Don't make me think about this. So
Mm.
I'm not like that. I'm a person who really wants to understand it. And I always feel sometimes people believe that by asking questions about their sexuality, they're going to remove the magic of it. Where
Mm.
to me, it's I don't feel that way about spirituality or sexuality. To doubt and to ask questions enhances everything.
Mm.
As far as I go. But there are plenty of people that just don't want to hear about it. So for them, the puppets can be the story of the puppets can be reassuring. Oh, I can see this in a way that is not going to offend me in any way, probably.
Yeah.
So in that respect, I want to appeal to people in a non-threatening way.
Yeah, I like what you said there, in that the artistry and the puppets that you use are able to kind of pierce through the sometimes difficult barriers that people have in place to thinking about or being exposed to different themes around sexuality and kinks and all sorts of things. That's very cool. And it's very true. I feel like art has that ability to transcend or break down barriers and kind of get around things in very interesting ways. So for people who are watching this, if you are not into explicit films, we have three categories. We've got explicit films, we've got sensual films, and then we've got art abstract. And so if you're not into explicit, there's a wide range of films that you can explore without having to be exposed to things that are explicit. So it's a really beautiful way to kind of touch into these themes and see how they move you and arouse you or inspire you or challenge you. So it's one of the, I think, the beautiful benefits of having films like yours, Thomas, in the festival is that it just opens up new pathways and doorways for people. And so, with that in mind, what is next for you as a filmmaker? Do you have any future projects that you're working on right now?
Oh my gosh, I have so many projects that I work on all the time. It's a little bit ridiculous for me, but I do have a TV show, so I'm always cranking out stuff, new songs and things like that. We have a new song which called "Good People," which is traveling to a few festivals, and that one is all about uh, the idea that we consider that people classifying us as a good person means something, and the idea that it doesn't matter whether I am really a good person, but as long as people classify me as a good person, then all is well. So we like to poke fun about different spiritual, psychological topics. So anyway, that sounds really heady and boring, but it's really a lot of fun. But we're always coming up with my collaborator and I are always trying to come up with ideas that enlighten people. He's actually a Zen yoga master, and we love doing songs that try to do the wrong thing. That we want to do music and films that try to encourage people to embrace selfishness or to embrace small-mindedness and see the humor of those things. So we love that kind of thing. So we do things like that, and I do documentaries as well. I have this project that I really want to get back to, which is a twisted version of the Charlie Brown Christmas special at some point, where our little puppet heroes discover the true meaning of Christmas, which is guilt. So so that's another project that we're working on. But I'm always doing something.
Very exciting. I almost feel like if you're a creative person, because I asked this question at the end, because almost everyone has always got projects that they're working on. I have never yet met a creative person that doesn't have like 500 more creative projects that they're either working on right now or want to work on. And I was in an inquiry with myself the other day thinking, oh my gosh, I wonder how long I will continue to make art for, because I'm an artist as well. I paint and I draw and I like to make films and, all the things. And I was like, oh, what happens, if I'm 85 and I'm like halfway through a painting and I die? And I was like, oh my gosh, think of all the unfinished creative things that are going to be in the world. I was like, oh, and then I was reflecting on how beautiful it is that all of these creative people have got all of these, pieces of creativity that are coming through that we may never see. And I was like, just my mind was feeling blown at the idea of that.
Well, Einstein felt the same way. He just he was on his deathbed writing his next theorem. He was like, oh man, I just want to keep going on this, and he didn't finish it. What are you going to do?
There's not much you can do once you're gone. Well, thank you so much, Thomas. It was so lovely to meet you, and I'm really excited for this film, The Pavlovian Submissive, in our festival this year. Thank you so much for submitting it. It's an absolute delight to have it. A pleasure. So we will see your film inside the festival, and I look forward to next time we catch up.
Very good. Thank you so much. You've been listening to an interview that Tom did with Australian artist Ilsa Faye as part of the Erotica Film Festival, which is taking place June 10th to June 30th in 2023. Tom's film is called Freya Mills' Pavlovian Submissive, and you can find all of the necessary information at eroticafilmfestival.com.
We're all puppets. We're just not always sure whose hand is inside of us.
And so here's one of them.
Body, wanna feel my body. Such a thrill, my body. Wanna touch my body. It's too much, my body. Check it out, my body. Don't you doubt my body. Talking about my body. Check it out, my body.
Every man wants to be a macho man. Have the kind of body always in demand. Jogging in the morning, go man go. Workouts at the health spa, muscles glow. You can best believe that he's a macho man, ready to get down with anyone he can.
Hey,
Hey,
hey, hey, hey. Macho man. I've got to be a macho man. Macho man. I've got to be a macho man. Body, it's so hot, my body. Love to pop my body. Love to please my body. Don't you tease my body. You'll adore my body. Come explore my body. Made by God, my body. It's so good, my body.
You can tell the macho, he has a funky walk. His western shirts and leather always look so boss. Funky with his body, he's a king. Call him Mr. Eagle, dig his chains. You can best believe that he's a macho man. He's a special person in anybody's land.
Hey,
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 hey, hey.
Macho man. I've got to be a macho man. Macho man. I've got to be a macho man. Macho man. I've got to be a macho man. Macho man. I've got to be a macho man. Macho man. I've got to be a macho man. Macho man. I've got to be a macho man. I've got to be a macho man. I've got to be a macho man.
You took a song about, now we realize, kind of violent gay love and made it into a campfire song. And I even heard the lyrics for the first time.
Thanks for listening to this week's show. We hope you had a good time. And we want to remind you that Tom's film, called Freya Mills, Pavlovian Submissive, is part of the Erotica Film Festival, the great festival that's happening in Australia, but it's really happening online, so it's everywhere. And you can get all the necessary information at eroticafilmfestival.com. We'll see you guys next week with a regular show.